So when we are talking about public procurement, we basically are talking about how the government today procures goods, works, and services, purposes of ensuring that operations are up and running. So our first chapter will be Introduction to Public Procurement. Under Introduction to Public Procurement, we will be able to understand what is public procurement. We shall also be able to talk about the evolution of public procurement in Kenya. We shall also look at the procurement, public procurement reforms in Kenya. And when we are talking about reforms, we are talking about some of the changes that have led to procurement, to what procurement is there today. We shall also look at the public procurement guiding principles. What are some of the principles that guide practitioners who are practicing public procurement? The other thing is the role of public procurement on social economic development. Remember, as much as you want to buy, you also need to look at how you are going to impact society. At the same time, you're also going to look at the economic aspect. So you don't buy just because you want to buy, but you also buy because at the end of the day, you must be able to get value out of what you're buying. And the other thing is sustainable public procurement. And sustainability here, we are looking at businesses nowadays. Businesses must be sustainable so that at the end of the day, you are able to be there like forever. So sustainability is all about surviving or how businesses are going to survive in the future. So as much as you are operating today, you also need to look at the future generation, what we are going to get out of what we do today. Our second topic will be legislative and regulatory framework. Here we are going to look at some of the rules, the regulations that guide people in public procurement. And one of the regulations that is very common is the Public Procurement Asset and Disposal Act of 2015. Other regulations or legislatives are like the Public Procurement Regulatory, Public Procurement Regulations of 2021. Another thing we will talk about is the objective of public procurement regulatory framework. What does the framework want to achieve at the end of the day? So we'll be able to understand that. The other thing that we are going to look at is the type of public sector organization. So we need to understand what are some of the public entities and what is their mandate in ensuring that public procurement is practiced in their institution. Number 3 will be public procurement bodies in Kenya. Remember, procurement is a profession. Therefore, we must have bodies that are going to regulate public procurement in Kenya. And one of the bodies that is very critical is the National Treasury, also referred to as the Ministry of Finance. So they are the ones who come up with various policies. They design what you are supposed to do, maybe practitioners are supposed to follow. Then we also have the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. And this is a body corporate, and their work basically is to look at the implementation of the policies that have been what can I say? So once the National Treasury comes up with a policy, the work of the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority is to ensure that implement that. And another body is the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board. Once in a while, you might find that a supplier has an issue. It comes to maybe the process, when it comes to award of tender. So if that is the case, therefore, the work of the Administrative Review Board is to ensure that they listen to the supplier and they also come up with a verdict on the same. Another body is the Kenya Institute of Supply Management. And Kenya Institute of Supply Management is basically the institution that comes up with the curriculum. And once they come up with the curriculum and they train also practitioners, therefore, they must know what is happening to these public entities or even the practitioners. And as a practitioner, also you need to be registered. And the work of Kenya Institute of Supply Management is to register you so that you can practice in the field of supply chain management. Then the other body is the Kenya Institute of Supply Examination Board, which is now the examination body. So once you complete this course, you'll be given a certificate, and that certificate will have the logo of Kenya Institute of Supply Examination Board. Therefore, it means you will be able to be a profession in that area. Then we also have the county government functions. So here we'll be able to understand what does the county do? What is the role of county government in ensuring that they follow procurement processes? Chapter 4 is all about principles and rules. When we talk about principles, these are, you can say they are like philosophies that guide the practitioners. We also need to look at the various rules that are very critical when it comes to issues to do with public procurement. Chapter 5 is the organization of public procurement in public sector. Here we are looking at how public procurement is organized. What are some of the departments or institutions within government that are mandated with public procurement? What is the organization of maybe the ministries and how they are going to carry out procurement? And here we shall talk about issues like the consortium buying, procurement agents. We shall talk about sector-specific and disposal agencies and how you can transfer responsibility to another procuring entity or public entity. Chapter 6 is about procurement methods for goods, works, and services. So you'll be able to understand what are some of the methods that you can use when you are procuring. But one of the methods that is very common, or the recommended method in public procurement, is the open tendering. The others are just alternatives. We shall also look at the threshold. And the threshold matrix basically gives a summary of the amount and the method of procurement that can be used in procuring different products or services or even works. Chapter 7 is about procurement of consultancy services. And here we are looking at services that require a lot of intellectual capacity, or services that require the experts who have been in that area for a very long time. And one of the critical areas that we need to look at is when an organization is not doing well, or maybe an organization does not have internal capacity. If that is the case, then it requires the services of a consultant who will come and give expert advice on the same. So we shall look at the terms of reference. We shall also look at the expression of interest and selection method for consultants. Chapter 8 is about public procurement contracts. Here we are going to look at how to prepare contracts, the creation of contracts, and how therefore you can be able to come up with a contract management plan. Then how then do you publicize these contracts so that people are able to look at the contract and they are able to critique those contracts. In case we have any amendments to the contract, it is also very important for you to understand what normally happens. Then framework contracting also is very critical. We shall also talk about that. Performance security, advanced payment, and contract administration. Chapter 9 is all about reference and reservation schemes in public procurement. And when we talk about preference and reservation, we normally say 30% is normally reserved for the youth, people living with disability, the women, and the vulnerable in society. Therefore, there's a whole topic for that. Then chapter 10 is about inventory control, assets, and store management distribution. Here we will be able to understand more about inventory control and how well we can maximize so that at the end of the day, we don't overspend in terms of inventory and we don't underspend also, so that we have optimum inventory that will be very critical for the operations of any organization. We shall also look at store management. How then do you manage your store so that we have the flow of inventory within and without a store. Then how are you going to issue inventory? And when you talk about issuance of inventory, is normally issued within various departments, normally referred to as the user department. Then disposal procedure also is very important, and the methods that are going to be used when disposing. Chapter 11 is about administrative review and disposal proceedings. Here we shall look at administrative review, appeal, application of administrative review, review procedures, and others. Chapter 12 is about ethics in public procurement. And ethics here, we are looking at morals and what we are supposed to do as a procurement professional so that you are not caught off guard and you don't go to explain what happened. So sometimes it's always important to understand the code of conduct so that you don't get fixed in public procurement. Chapter 13 is about accountability, responsibility, and authority in public procurement. Here we are going to look at various responsibilities of public officers and how well they perform their duties, and declaration of conflict of interest. It's always important to declare conflict of interest. Chapter 14 is about emerging issues and trends in public procurement. And here we are going to look at issues like technology. What has technology done in public procurement? We're going to look at issues of contracts. How can you review contracts and things like that, so that at the end of the day, you become competitive. Remember, the market is very competitive. And if you don't fix it today, it means that tomorrow is going to be very, very critical.